Hey everybody, this is Matthew Movies coming at you with my review of Jingle All the Way, the 1996 Christmas movie that I have mixed feelings on. There are parts of this movie I enjoy a great deal. There are people on the cast of this movie that I absolutely love. The experience of this movie can be fun at points, but at the same time, this is definitely not a movie that I would consider like a Christmas classic. It's not one that I have in my collection. It's not a movie that I'm like, oh, I need to watch this every year at Christmas. There are parts of it that I will always enjoy, but I could go 10, 15 years without watching it without feeling like I missed out on anything, because I do find that as far as Christmas movies go, I'd say this is probably on the lower tier of the best known movies. There are definitely, I mean, there are thousands, hundreds of terrible Christmas movies, bad TV movie Christmas movies that are out there, but this is better than for sure. But as far as like the ones that people, bring up the most in reference to the season, I'd say it's on the lower tier of those. A movie starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, which right off the hop is always gonna, make me happy. He plays this dad in this movie who is all about his business. He loves his family, absolutely. That is made abundantly clear. But he at the same time feels like he's under pressure to make his business run to perfection, and as such, unfortunately, he ends up disappointing his wife and his son on a fairly regular basis. And coming up to Christmas, he's assured his wife that he got this toy for his son, the one toy that his son wants more than anything in the world. But unfortunately for him, it is the toy of the season, and it's practically impossible to come by. So throughout the entire movie, he's going all over town trying to track down this toy, and throughout the movie, I think he plays a great dad. I mean, it's very, very entertaining. The guy I think he does definitely have comedic chops, and it's something that unfortunately I don't think we've seen too much from him. I mean, there are movies like Twins and Kindergarten Cop and Junior, if you enjoy that movie, Last Action Hero even to a degree. I mean, there are definitely movies out there that have taken advantage of his comedic abilities for sure, but not enough in my view. And I think this one does a pretty good job. I mean, and they also are effective in the fact that they also play off his size. I mean, there are moments where there are people that are kind of taunting him or whatever, and all of a sudden he's kind of holding them by the lapels, and they all of a sudden realize, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't be messing with this gigantic man, and not in height but in so I think that they definitely took advantage of him, and because of the fact that the guy has been in so many movies and you already had this built-in adoration for him as an actor, you kind of come to care about this character more right off the hop, and I think that was all effective. And some of his line deliveries are great, especially like his exasperation at various scenes. And there's one moment in particular that I'll be addressing a little bit later on that I think is my favorite moment in the entire movie, and his line readings is what makes it so fantastic. And I think he's pretty great. And throughout the entire movie, he's got this mail carrier that he's battling, trying to get this toy from, and Sinbad plays the main that character, and he's very interesting because he kind of waffles back and forth. He's not like a pure evil character by any stretch of the imagination, but he also is the closest thing this movie has to an antagonist throughout. I mean, there are lots of times in which he's very cheap in his attempts to gain advantage over Arnold in order to get this toy, and he does some pretty morally reprehensible stuff. I mean, there's a moment where he fakes having a bomb and all that kind of stuff, but at the same time, he also has these moments where he's kind of talking about what it would mean to him to get this toy, where you can kind of empathize with him a little bit more. There's nuance there that you wouldn't necessarily expect out of a movie like this, and I thought this had some pretty interesting moment with Sinbad, where he actually showed that he has a little bit more acting ability than I think a lot of things have ever given him the chance to show. But at the same time, he's not extraordinary by any stretch of the imagination. He's a solid element of this film. Unfortunately, I'd say that one of the major ways in which this movie falls down is the kid that they cast to play Arnold's son, who is the same kid who played Anakin Skywalker in The Phantom Menace. A kid who, I gotta tell you, I have always found to be extremely annoying, and definitely applies here. I mean, I feel bad for the kid. I know in real life his life hasn't been great. He feels very angry about his former childhood stardom and has been picked on a lot, and I don't want to see any of that, but at the same time, I don't want to see him on my TV. I mean, the kid is very, very annoying and whiny, and he's got this shrill quality, and he seems to be trying really hard in some moments to be cute. This kid bugs me whenever he's on the screen. But fortunately, you know, he's not a major. He's a major character for sure. Obviously, I mean, he's the son of the main character, but he's not in it throughout. So, you know, it's kind of easier to look past that. And then Rita Wilson plays Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife, and I thought that she was entertaining, and it was funny too, because she has all these moments with Phil Hartman, who's an actor who I absolutely adore and was absolutely one of the funniest guys around at that time, and quite possibly ever. And the way that they played off of one another, and her expressions on her face at some of his antics, I thought were pretty great. And speaking of which, I mean, Phil Hartman is a highlight of this movie for sure. When I was talking about Arnold, when I said that there was a moment that I was going to touch on, my favorite scene in this movie by far is the moment where it's Arnold on the phone with Phil Hartman, and they're talking about his wife's cookies, and how Phil Hartman's like, oh, these cookies are great, and like his tone of voice where he sounds like as if he's having this extremely pleasurable experience, and Arnold yell at him, put the cookie down. I mean, the whole thing is just very, very entertaining. Definitely the most entertaining part of this entire movie by far for me. The back and forth between the two of them, I just think it's great. I mean, there are times in which some of the reactions that Phil Hartman has, I mean, Arnold's character practically destroys his home, and it seems like the repercussions are very slight. I mean, this is a very fanciful film, and like I said before, Sinbad at one point he's fakes a bombing, and he seems to get away with that kind of scot-free. I mean, he has some repercussions at the end of the film, but it's definitely a fanciful film. And one of the things that's also noticeable about this movie is there are a lot of actors in this that are recognizable, some of which weren't recognizable at the time, some of which were. Like, for instance, Jim Belushi has a supporting role in this movie as a mall Santa that has a racket where he tricks parents into buying toys that are fraudulent, and he tries to pull this off with Arnold at this warehouse that has overrun with mall Santas of all shapes and sizes. Vern Troyer is among them, and just that whole sequence was interesting. I mean, Arnold ends up fighting this cadre of mall Santas, which was quite something. I was watching this movie with my daughter, and she seemed to be a little bit appalled at the idea of this guy fighting Santas, but I explained to her that it was okay. And one of the people that also they set it up where he's going to fight this massive Santa who's played by Paul White, otherwise known as the Big Show in the WWE, or the Giant WCW wrestler, whose career I've followed for years. So that's kind of fun. Chris Parnell has a small role in this. He was not a celebrity by any stretch of the imagination at the time, but he plays this store clerk that laughs at Arnold when he thinks he's going to be able to buy the toy that day, which was great. And Curtis Armstrong pops up, but an actor who I've always loved from the movie Better Off Dead, but most people probably know better from Revenge of the Nerds. And the only other supporting character is an actor that I didn't know from anywhere, but there is a police officer that Arnold keeps kind of getting tangled up with, and clearly thinks very little of Arnold throughout. Who I thought the actor who played him did a pretty great job, and it's funny too, because he comes off like he's very stern, but at the same time you also get the impression he's just a cop trying to do his job, and Arnold is in the wrong in every situation that they come across. And you understand why he's doing the things, but that whole interaction I think was great. This movie I think is it's a solid film. If I was to give it a score of 1 out of 10, I'd probably say that's about a 7 for me. I mean, it's not great. Like I said, I don't have it in my collection. I would like to have it in my collection because it's Arnold, it's Christmas, the whole nine. But it's not a movie that I'm going to pull out every year. But it's definitely one that I can see myself watching multiple times over my life and enjoying it for what it is each of those times. So those are my thoughts on Jingle All the Way. Let me know in the comment section below what you think, if you're a fan of it, if you think it's underrated, overrated, whatever. Other than that, if you are new here or you just haven't done it yet, please hit subscribe, hit that notification bell. That way you can find out when I put out a new video, and come and let me know what you think, because I love talking to people about movies, and it just absolutely means the world to me. And speaking of which, if you are somebody who is watching this video, please hit that like button, hit that share button. That way you can let other people know this video exists, and they can come and check it out and hopefully be one of those subscribers. Aside from all that though, have yourself a good day.